You know what? It's been a little while since Snooker's done something that's caused some controversy amongst its own fan base. Not since I think it was 2016, 2017, when they announced that the Snooker Shootout was going to become a full ranking event. Has an announcement or a decision created a bit of a divide amongst its fans as the news of this Saudi Arabia Snooker Masters has caused. Now, back at the start of the season, we discovered that we would get a brand new ranking event, which is going to be held next week in Riyadh. For the first time ever, snooker is going to go to Saudi Arabia, and it's going to have the top 8 ranked players, plus a couple of home wildcards. And then a few weeks ago, we got a further announcement that starting next season, the Saudi Arabia Snooker Masters is going to become a full ranking event. It's going to be on the tour for 10 years minimum, after a deal was made between Matchroom Sport, which is obviously both snooker and pool, and the Saudi Ministry of Sport. And yeah, to say the decision ruffled a few feathers amongst fans is potentially an understatement. Similar feelings, similar vibes to what's happened in football, what's happened in golf and other sports, where they've sort of moved more and more towards Saudi Arabia and done it for massive cash. Sneakers followed in those footsteps. And is that a good decision? I mean, for me, fundamentally, snooker should always be looking to grow itself. For so long, and I would say for way too long, it has been predominantly based in the UK. You know, we hold all the big tournaments, not just the Triple Crown events, which obviously deserve to be in England, in my opinion. You've got other huge tournaments like, Players' Championship, Tour Championship, the Champion of Champions. All of those are UK based as well. And okay, for the past 20 years, China's emerged. They, before COVID, used to have 5 or 6 tournaments on the calendar, and they're starting to get back to those levels now, which is encouraging. But other than that, you get the odd tournament in Thailand. There's been, Hong Kong staged a few tournaments. Mainland Europe has emerged a little bit, particularly Germany. But that's pretty much it. And if you want to be known as a proper world tour or world sport, you have to be in more parts of the globe. And this is an opportunity to do just that. I don't think snooker's been played in the Middle East since, I want to say, 2008, when it had the Bahrain Masters. Certainly not to my recollection can I remember any tournaments over there since then. So in that aspect, it is a massive, massive opportunity. And even though there is obviously massive cash being injected into the tournament, £2 million, the second highest prize pot in snooker, only behind the World Championship. I do think that there is an appetite for the sport over there as well. Okay, in fairness, I don't have actual statistics to back this up. But just looking at World Snooker posts across all of its social media platforms, you will see that there is a high engagement amongst fans from that part of the world. Hussein Fafai has obviously emerged massively in the past 5 or so years. And more to the point, I don't think Saudi Arabia would be massively willing to put £2 million into a 10-year deal for a sport that's really not that recognised at all. I mentioned football and golf. Those are established world sports. Snooker outside of the UK isn't. So for them to put that kind of money into a tournament would suggest that there is already at least a belief that there's an appetite amongst its population to get involved with the sport. I don't know what the venues are going to look like. That there were times when you went to China, and they were playing in these like huge leisure centres, and there was about 5 men and 1 dog watching, because China just inflated the ticket prices so much that only like the top 5% of the population could actually afford those tickets. So hopefully you don't get the same thing happen there. Because if you've got a brand new tournament which is going to be, as big and glamorous as it's been hyped up to be, you need a proper audience there as well. You wouldn't see the World Cup being played in front of 20 people. There needs to be full arenas, and the tournament needs to be well supported. But I am aware that the main reason this news has ruffled so many feathers is mainly because of this idea that Saudi Arabia in particular are starting to, the term is sports wash most Western sports, by just throwing endless amounts of money at it. And then there's also issues regarding human rights, LGBTQ rights, women's rights. And this video isn't designed to be sort of a lecture about that, simply because I do not know enough about those points to properly express an opinion on that. I have, since the news was announced, I have searched certain things, particularly regarding the women's game, because I've been so impressed, and I am such a huge advocate of promoting women in this sport, and I think snooker is doing a really good job, by the fact that not so long ago women weren't allowed to play in certain snooker clubs in the UK. Now they've got a fully fledged tour, and then some women are allowed onto the professional circuit by way of wildcards. And you've also got the mixed doubles event as well. So you're getting more and more exposure for these female players, which is massively beneficial for them and huge for the game. The one concern that I had when I heard this news was instantly, obviously, Saudi Arabia aren't going to ban women from playing. It's more, are female players who are on tour and eligible to play in the tournament going to feel uncomfortable by going over to the event? Now, obviously, I have no knowledge of whether they do or don't. No one's come out and expressed that. This could entirely be me just speculating a point that isn't true. But if it was the case that women felt uneasy about the tournament to the point that they opt out of playing in it, that would be something that I think World Snooker should look at, because promoting the game to a brand new demographic is massive and, like I say, hugely important. That shouldn't come at the detriment of affecting another demographic that we've worked so hard to include. And whilst people might say, oh, it's only one tournament, if they choose to miss it, first, it's their choice, and second, it's only one tournament in a full season of about 15 to 20 tournaments. That's not really the point. No one should ever feel like they have to miss out on a tournament, especially a professional missing out on a professional tournament due to gender or sexuality or whatever. So, I'm really hoping that's not the case. And like I say, I don't have evidence to back up the fact that there are women that will be uneasy about it. But yeah, if that is the case, I certainly hope it's something that World Snooker take on board. But yeah, when it comes to sort of what is actually happening in the country with regards to human rights, women's rights, I'm not educated enough to know. I do think a lot of people that are commenting aren't educated either. They kind of hear what they heard once and they cling on to that ideology. I do know that Saudi Arabia are loosening restrictions when it comes to the male guardianship system. I know that women are now being allowed and starting to be encouraged to play sports. I think they've now got a national women's football team. So, slowly and stride by stride, there are improvements, necessary improvements being made, in my opinion. But ultimately, Mark Allen said it pretty well in one of his interviews. We're not here to be politicians. Snooker's going over there, and it is hugely important that we do try and grow the game as much as possible. But there is one other cause of contention, and this is one that I strongly disagree with. And this is the idea that this new Saudi Arabia Snooker Masters is about to become snooker's fourth major. Ridiculous. Obviously, you guys don't need lecturing. We've already got the World Championship, the UK Championship, and the Masters. Those three tournaments make up snooker's Triple Crown. They have since about the 70s, and they are the Triple Crown because they are the three longest running tournaments in the sport. And along with that comes huge amounts of prestige, and every player that's ever won those tournaments is just down in the history books for life. And there's never ever been an inclination that we would ever get like a fourth one to suddenly become tennis, where there's obviously 4 Grand Slams. We've got 3 Triple Crowns, and it's always worked. But yeah, now suddenly we've got a brand new tournament in a brand new part of the world, which we've never seen before. We have got no idea how this tournament is going to go. But yeah, let's just whack the title of Snooker's Next Major on it, because we're injecting so much money. And it does not work that way, I'm afraid. Being a major is so much more than just money. Quite frankly, a player could win the World Championship, the UK Championship, or the Masters, and get a £50 and a Freddo for winning. And it will still be far more prestigious and far more memorable than winning any other tournament on the circuit. £2 million, fantastic for the game. Also great for those lower down the rankings to pick up not just ranking points, but actual money to feed themselves and provide for their families. And exposing this sport to a new area of the world. Brilliant, fantastic, all on board that. But a new major, are you absolutely out of your mind? And also, if we did want to have a conversation about adding a fourth major to come with the Triple Crown, there are so many more tournaments, pre-established tournaments, that are more deserving of that. I could look at the Welsh Open, which is the longest running tournament behind those 3. You've got the Champion of Champions, which has been really well received since it came into play in 2013. You've got the German Masters with its unbelievable crowd at the Tempodrome. Or even in China, you've got the China Open, you've got the Shanghai Masters, 2 massive tournaments which have also been on the calendar for a long time. Obviously, okay, both of them weren't played for a couple of years because of COVID, but they're back again. So yeah, if you're going to look at a fourth major, look at these tournaments, look at the ones that are pre-established, we know work, we know we all look forward to. That's not to say I might not be sitting here in 10 years saying, wow, the Saudi Arabia Masters is an incredible tournament, so lucrative, so prestigious. Okay, it is now worthy of being a major. Let's have that discussion in like 2030 when we've actually had this tournament for a significant amount of time. Don't just whack on decided that it's a new major. And the concern there is that the Saudi Ministry of Sport have just said, right, we're going to give you all of this money and we're going to give you, a great venue and all of this, we're going to promote your sport and we're going to, really influence the sort of our population getting involved in your sport. But to do that, we're going to need a bit more prestige, I'm afraid. We can't just have a tournament. What do you mean, just a tournament? This needs to be one of the very best. If we're giving you the second highest amount of money, you better make this the second biggest tournament. You definitely know that those kind of discussions happen because, these decisions are made by people who don't understand sport. But yeah, quite frankly, even if World Snooker do give in and they say, yes, this is the fourth major, get over it. I don't think any snooker fan is going to be like, yes, I agree with that. Winning the World Championship, the Masters or the UK will always be way more prestigious. And like I say, no amount of money will ever change that.